The airport was almost empty on New Year's Eve. Families laughed together, children ran through the terminal wearing paper hats, and couples hugged before boarding their flights. But at Gate 27, billionaire Adrian Collins sat completely alone, staring through the glass at the snow-covered runway. His private jet was waiting, yet he had never felt poorer. Every business goal he had ever chased had finally been achieved, but there was no one left to celebrate with. Then, just minutes before midnight, he looked up and saw a familiar face walking through the terminal. It was the woman he had loved and lost years ago. Beside her was a little boy holding her hand, a boy whose eyes looked exactly like his. For a moment, Adrian couldn't breathe. 8 years earlier, Adrian and Emma had dreamed of building a simple life together. Before his company became worth billions, they lived in a tiny apartment, shared cheap dinners, and believed love was enough. But as success arrived, Adrian became consumed by endless meetings, investors, and international travel. He missed birthdays, anniversaries, and quiet evenings at home, always promising that the next deal would be his last. Eventually, Emma stopped asking him to come home early. One day, she quietly packed her belongings and left. Adrian searched for her, but by then his company had expanded overseas, and he buried his heartbreak beneath even more work. He convinced himself she had moved on. Now, standing only a few feet away in the airport, Emma looked older, wiser, and just as beautiful as he remembered. The little boy beside her couldn't have been older than 7. Every feature, the smile, the dark hair, even the curious expression, reminded Adrian of himself as a child. Emma noticed him too. She froze for a second before gently squeezing the boy's hand. Adrian slowly walked toward them, his heart pounding harder than it ever had during any billion-dollar negotiation. Before he could speak, the boy smiled politely, completely unaware that he was standing in front of the man who had spent years unknowingly missing his childhood. Emma quietly explained what had happened. When she left, she had only recently discovered she was pregnant. She tried reaching Adrian several times, but his assistants filtered every message while he traveled from country to country, building his empire. Eventually, believing he had chosen his career over their family, she decided to raise their son alone rather than keep chasing someone who seemed impossible to reach. Adrian felt the weight of every missed birthday, every first step, every bedtime story he had never been there to witness. For the first time in years, money meant absolutely nothing. The boarding announcement interrupted their conversation. Emma and her son were flying to spend New Year's with relatives across the country. Adrian looked at the departure board, then at his waiting private jet. Without hesitation, he canceled his international business trip. Instead of chasing another contract, he asked if he could simply spend the next hour getting to know the little boy. They sat together near the terminal windows, eating hot chocolate and cookies from an airport cafe. Adrian listened as the boy excitedly talked about school, soccer, and his dream of becoming an engineer. Every laugh felt like both a gift and a reminder of precious years that could never be recovered. When midnight arrived, fireworks illuminated the night sky beyond the runway. Families embraced around them. Adrian realized that this was the first New Year's Eve in nearly a decade that he wasn't thinking about stock prices or business deals. Before Emma boarded her flight, Adrian made no grand promises. He didn't ask for forgiveness he hadn't yet earned. He simply promised to show up, not with expensive gifts or extravagant gestures, but with time, consistency, and love. Over the following months, he kept that promise. He rearranged his business responsibilities, attended school events, coached soccer games, and slowly earned his son's trust. He also rebuilt a respectful friendship with Emma, understanding that broken relationships heal through actions, not words. Years later, Adrian was often asked what the greatest investment of his life had been. People expected him to mention a company acquisition or a billion-dollar merger. Instead, he smiled and spoke about a lonely New Year's Eve at an airport when fate gave him a second chance he never thought he deserved. He had spent years believing success meant building an empire. That night, he discovered that true wealth wasn't measured by the size of his fortune, but by the people waiting beside him when the clock struck midnight. Sometimes life doesn't give us another chance because we've earned it. Sometimes it offers one simply because love refuses to give up, even after years of silence. And for Adrian, the greatest journey of his life didn't begin on a private jet. It began in a quiet airport terminal, beside the family he almost lost forever.